CIL 650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fred Snyder.
Okay, there is the music. And I remind you once again, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back for another edition of It's Your Money here on 6:50 a.m. And we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. How to keep it is the most important part of that sentence, because most of us earn small fortunes during our lifetimes, but we end up broke. And I think we end up broke because we don't have a financial plan, we don't have a financial planner, we don't shop for the best products, we just don't know what to do. We're like a wandering generality instead of a meaningful specific, and we need to get on track. We're not there, we're not happy, we're disillusioned with our financial situation, and we don't do much about it. And that's a sad state of affairs, but that's just the way it is. Joining me today is a lady who's written a great book. It's called Looney to Tooney. Her name is Gina Deal. She's from Ontario. She's out here visiting, and she's been in the business. She understands about money, and I want to talk to her about her book. And I presume it would be okay to offer callers a copy of your book?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anybody who calls the show gets a copy of the book. And tell me something, Gina. Let's just get right down to brass tacks. If anybody wants to get a hold of you, how do they reach you?
The best way would be by visiting my website. There's a contact tab on there, and you can just send me an email, and that would be the best way. So
they can find you on the web by searching Looney to Tooney or Gina Deal or whatever?
Yes, looneytotooney.com is the website.
Okay.
Yes.
And so what differentiates you from other authors? Have you written anything else before this book?
I have dabbled with writing, but not in this form, with screenwriting, some screenplays, long and short, as well as some short stories. So this was a big departure from my typical writing attempts in the past.
Why would our listeners read your book?
Well, it's a financial book that teaches you the basics from the very beginning. So if you're completely new to investing, or if someone you know is, it teaches you all the brand new terms. It explains everything. There's a glossary in the back that you can refer to as you go along, because it is easy to get lost. The financial world is quite large and complex, and
getting more so.
It's hard to know where to start. And so the book explains everything from the start, from money to how the economy works, to how investments work, and investment accounts and registered accounts.
The book, The Richest Man in Babylon, says that the secret of financial success is to keep a part of everything you earn, entrust it to experts, and leave it to compound. And I think financial success is almost as fundamental as that.
Yeah.
Okay? Keep a part of everything you earn. It means you don't spend 100% of everything you earn.
That's right.
You spend less than you earn. You're not broke on payday, and you don't spend more than you earn, because that means you're in debt.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have a deficit. You have to have a surplus in your overall financial situation. You have to pay yourself first, and that's the only way you're going to be able to keep a part of everything that you earn, period. And it's our responsibility to do that. Does your book cover that issue?
Yes, it covers financial goals, the importance of that, and having a plan that supports your financial goals, and speaking to the professionals who can help you formulate those plans.
So essentially, you would agree that probably the most important factor of all is to keep a part of everything you earn to pay yourself first.
Oh, yes. It won't happen any other way.
So if you earn $1, you put 10 cents aside for yourself, you budget the other 90 cents to pay everybody else, including the tax man.
Yes.
Okay? So Looney to Tooney, Looney, I guess that's $1, and a Tooney is $2, right?
Yes.
So it's all about how do you double your money.
Yes. Yeah, it's something to aspire towards and to think of your money that way.
So the rule of 72 comes into play, right?
Right.
The rule of 72, you want to know how long it takes to double your money, divide the rate of return into 72. That's how long it takes to double your money. So if the rate of return on your money is 12%, goes into 72 6 times, takes 6 years to double your money. Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. It doesn't seem too complicated.
No. So keep a part of everything you earn. If you do that, you end up with a great big fat bank account that's earning practically nothing. And after taxes and inflation, your return is probably negative.
Yes.
So the second step is to entrust the money, some of that money, to experts who can invest it for you. So when I talk about entrusting it to experts, I can be talking about managed money like mutual funds. I can be talking like a stockbroker, somebody like that who looks after your money, discretionary trading, all that kind of stuff. I can talk about life insurance products. There's a ream of financial products that are out there that are offered by anybody and everybody almost. I think there's something like 1,100 mutual funds in Canada, right? 1,100. Is it 11? It's not 11,000.
Possibly, yeah, I think
It is 11,000. My
yes.
God, I can't believe there's so many.
There's so many.
It's unbelievable. So there's 11,000 investment, almost, not quite, in Canada, in all shapes and sizes of those. And then there's individual security stocks, et cetera, GICs, term deposits, Canada savings bonds, segregated mutual funds. The list is endless. It goes on and on and on. So how do you pick the best products? How do you find these experts that you're going to entrust your savings to? Is that covered in your book?
Yes.
Okay.
I talk about
Let's
the
talk
different
about that a bit,
financial
then.
institutions and the different types of advisors that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And basically just giving you ideas on what to look for in a good advisor. You know, you can be going to a really solid bank or financial institution to seek investment options, but you might be with someone that you may not feel totally comfortable with. But you can always talk to somebody else and find the truth of, you know, to get to your financial goals.
What would you look for in a good advisor? What does a good advisor look like? Don't say like me.
Transparency, open communication.
What does that mean? Expand on that.
Well, you should be able to ask questions openly about your financial situation and not feel like you're being judged. And the advisor should be very objective and neutral about how they're going to approach you with your financial goals, whether it's to pay down debt or if it's to pay for your child's education, to give you the different options and not act pushy or seem like they're pressuring you into doing something that you might not be comfortable with, and respecting your risk, basically, and your financial obligations.
What comment would you make about the need for a financial plan?
It's essential.
You're not going to get to where you want to go without a plan?
Yeah, there's a saying that go without a plan is just a wish.
Okay.
You know, you absolutely need a plan to support your goals.
So in your book, do you talk about how to establish meaningful, worthwhile financial goals?
Yes, I discuss the importance of it. I have very easy steps to understand the importance of your goals, set your sights on them, and then to speak to a financial professional about them. How you can go about tackling those goals, whether it's one goal or several, if it's short term or if it's long term.
So if you have well-defined, very specific financial goals, it's pretty easy to target those goals. It's pretty easy to imagine yourself having already achieved that goal. But if it's not specific, it's hard to imagine yourself having already achieved it. So you don't get very motivated. I think that people become successful because they're obsessed about being successful.
Yes.
They have a burning desire to become financially independent. They have a burning desire to accumulate a few $1 million and that kind of thing. And those who don't get there, they really don't want to. Enough. And I think enough is the key word. Okay.
The excuses will suddenly magnify and get in the way of the path to what you really want.
I look at the book Think and Grow Rich has been my Bible for many, many years.
It's a great book.
And it's a fabulous book because all the success secrets that are, if you want to call them secrets, because I don't know if they really are secrets anymore. It's well publicized what the basics are. So if you want to achieve financial success, you have to have a goal and you have to have a burning desire to achieve it. Napoleon Hill in his book says that anything you can vividly imagine ardently desire and enthusiastically act upon
Mm-hmm.
and believe you can will inevitably come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that that's true.
I believe that too.
And success is a journey. It isn't a destination.
No, it may not look like the trip you had planned, but
Mhm.
if you keep your goal in mind, you write your goals down and you review them regularly, as Napoleon Hill suggests in his book, then you can get there.
Zig Ziglar says that, are you a wandering generality or a meaningful specific when it comes to goals? Uh, he said at one time in my life I was quite a bit overweight, deliberately, because I never accidentally ate anything.
Hmm.
And it's probably true.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the accumulation of money, or it's the same when it comes to the achievement of any goal, for that
Mm-hmm.
matter. So the achievement of goals is an important aspect of what we're talking about. Okay. So we say that part of everything you earn is yours to keep, and the second part is then you entrust your money to experts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what comments would you make about expert? Who's an expert when it comes to money? What does an expert look like?
An expert can look like anyone. I think that there's a big barrier in investment knowledge. A lot of people just don't know much about investments. It's not taught to us, and so it's
It's not taught to
intimidating.
us
No,
in school.
we don't learn about it in school.
Mhm.
It's not in our education system yet. I think it should be. So I think that an expert might look intimidating when that's not necessarily the case. They're professionals. They're well trained. They have to go through a lot of schooling, um, but the media will focus if there's a big scam or something. They'll focus a lot on those stories, and if someone might have thought about investing, it'll just confirm, well, see, that's exactly why I don't invest, because that's what those people do. And that is not the case. I've always had great conversations with financial experts, and they're not always out to get my money.
No, not all of them. Some
No.
of them. So in your book, I'm just referring to the table of contents. And incidentally, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, anybody wants a copy of this book, all you got to do is make a phone call. I'm going to give the numbers out right now because we want to have conversations with you. We want to share this show with you, our listeners. I don't want to sit here and preach. I don't think that Gina does either. Uh, we're talking about information that we want to share with you, our listeners. The number to call is 604-280-0650. Repeat it once again, 604-280-0650. Should you be calling long distance, anywhere in the lower mainland, it's 1-877-280-0650. I don't know if all our equipment is working here today. We're under construction here today. But I think you can probably log on, www.cl650.com, and you can see what we look like because that's a webcast. Now, for those who are shy or reluctant to talk on the air, Frida's down at the office right now. She'll take your calls at 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512. And again, if you're calling long distance for the office calls, it's 1-800-661-1495. You just tuned in. I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner representing Scotia Wealth Management. I'm talking with Gina Deal. I have her book here in my hand. I must confess I haven't read it yet. I plan on it, but my idea was to talk to her in a very open-minded manner about this book. Now, I'm looking at your table of contents,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go through this a bit one at a time.
Sure
okay?
thing.
Number one, part one, financial basics, money. All right, what are your comments when it comes to money?
Well, money is.
We screw up, don't we? Most people.
I think our understanding of money gets in the way of how we should be handling it. And if we understood it as a means to, we consider it an asset, we might respect it more instead of treating it as just something that will give us immediate reward, gratifying our impulses. If we can treat money as something that helps us obtain the basic necessities and also helps us achieve our desires and our goals, we might be able to balance that out a little better.
I know that I have to send 10 cents out of every dollar that I earn into the future to look after the person I'm going to be.
Yeah.
At some point in the future,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because if I don't do that, that person that I'm going to be is going to look back on me today and hate me
Yes.
and say you didn't look after me.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you have a responsibility to look after the future you.
Yes.
And that applies whether you're 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, 60 or 70. It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter whether you're working or not working. You must set aside a part of everything you earn. Just as we said earlier, part of everything you earn is yours to keep, and you have to make sure that that happens. So once again, 604-280-0650, long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.cal650.com. Free to down at the office, area code 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. So what do you think about the topic that we're talking about? Money, really. That's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the accumulation of wealth, how to get from point A to point B, how to get from poor to rich.
Mm-hmm.
What's the bridge? Probably a financial plan. You're on page 9, or it starts on page 9 on your table of contents, you talk about the economy.
Yes.
So what do you say in your book about the economy?
It's basically about understanding business cycles and how they are impacted by spending, how we will go through peaks where spending increases, it leads to inflation, and then interest rates are raised.
So you're talking right now about the economic cycle.
Yes, that's right.
You're talking about the trough, the peak,
That's
period of
correct.
expansion, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To understand demand and
I
supply.
have a question for you right now.
Okay.
Here's a really good question.
Uh-oh.
Where are we in the economic cycle right now?
Well, it's an interesting place because, in Europe, they're dealing with negative interest rates, and currently interest rates are quite low. But inflation-wise, inflation is under control as well, but look at the prices of houses and education. It's just significantly higher.
Everything is really bent out of shape, isn't it?
It is. You have products that are competitive and cheaper, but the bigger things, like longer retirements, all of that has become more expensive. So we're in an interesting place now where it's important to know what different options would be.
I'm sure you remember, but I'm going to ask you the question.
Okay.
Do you remember '08?
Oh, yes. I was there for that, yes.
Well, here's the question. Are we out of '08? I don't think we are. I think we're still kind of hooked to '08.
I don't
think we've gotten out of that yet.
Yeah. I fully agree with you.
I think we're in a period of expansion. Whether we're close to the next peak or not, I'm not so sure. It's really hard to read it.
I think
so you look at the economic indicators.
Yeah.
So what are the economic indicators telling us right now?
Well, it's the stock market as a leading indicator.
Yeah.
But I think everyone's investing as if the economy is in a precarious place. There's not a lot of the confidence is quite shaky, but the market keeps going up. So everyone just shrugs as I guess it's okay to invest, in the
Is
stocks.
Donald Trump going to fix things? It's a
He's
joke.
definitely going to rock things. I don't know which way it's going to go. Should he be elected?
I still think though that I can't believe that we've released ourselves from '08 quite yet. We seem to be still hooked into that.
I agree with you.
That
yes.
and most people think, oh no, we're close to another '08. I don't think so. What do you think?
I think that we're kind of in the shadow of '08, and everyone's just waiting for the next.
Shadow says it well.
Yeah, and everyone's just waiting for the next big crash. What is this expansion based on? Is it based on actual real growth, or is it just on quick trades in the market? Are we inflating our actual stock market? Does it look better than it's really showing? It's really hard to
What's
tell.
your opinion on that? I said opinion.
Oh,
Okay?
it's an opinion, yes.
That's okay.
Well, I do think that there will be a big drop at
Mhm.
some point. I don't know if it'll be as devastating, but we don't know what is the reason. Is it going to be the Brexit? You know, when
Mhm.
if Britain should leave, want to leave
Mhm.
the EU, will it lead to a lot of uncertainty, and will that cause the next crash? Or if a
Well,
big
you know
economic,
that the markets don't like uncertainty.
hate it, they,
Yeah.
yeah, investors just don't like uncertainty unless you're one of those.
I mean, if they had to choose, they'd pick a declining market, an increasing market, but not uncertainty,
Yeah,
not the question mark.
we
Okay.
we like trends.
Yeah.
We definitely like trends. Yeah.
So it's really hard to read. So do you think that they're going to leave the EU?
From what I have, well, it's interesting because their prime minister, David Cameron, he doesn't want to. And I
Mhm.
don't know how strong his influence is going to be.
Mhm.
Everyone has a 50-50 idea of which way they're going to go. But I think the fact that they're in a place where they have to have a referendum shows how divided they are. But I have a feeling that they'll end up staying.
I think they're going to stay
Yeah.
because I think leaving is
I think they
the
should
worst
stay. But
option.
yeah.
Um, so any other comments before we leave the economy?
Well, I also talk about the different sectors and
Okay.
how.
Well, let's talk about the sectors.
Mhm.
What are the economic sectors?
Well, there are the defensive sectors, which, uh,
What, industrials, like you mean?
like utilities,
Yeah.
healthcare,
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals,
Yeah.
and consumer staples.
Okay.
And so, if you're a more conservative investor and you're interested in investing in stocks, let's say, you might want to invest in utilities
Mhm.
or in consumer staples.
So if you do that, your return isn't going to be quite so high, but it's going to be less volatile.
It'll be way less volatile, and it's also a good thing to load into if the economy suddenly crashes or
Don't use that term.
I
That scares me.
it's scary, yes. But if there's just a minor recession or
Mhm.
slowdown in the economy, it's a good strategy that
Mhm.
you can turn to.
So essentially, whether you do well when you invest or not really depends on the economy
Mhm.
and where you are in the economic cycle.
Mhm. Mhm.
If you decide to get into the market before you've reached a peak, it's probably a good idea. The market still has some legs.
Mhm.
But if you invest at the peak and we're ready for a major correction, it's not good timing.
Mhm.
604-280-0650, long distance 1-877-280-0650. Log on www.cl650.com. And again, if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air, you can talk to Frida. She's down at the office at 604-737-3512. Long distance 1-800-661-1495. Give us a call. Let's talk about your money and how to keep it. Let's talk about this fabulous book, How to Double Your Money, Looney to Toonie. Double your money, get 12%, and you'll double it in 6 years.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what we're talking about, and much, much more. So again, we're talking about the accumulation of wealth. So, all right. So we move ahead in part 2.
Mhm.
Let's leave that economic stuff alone for a
Okay,
minute
sure.
or two. Let's talk about part 2. Financial goals. We talked about it earlier.
Mhm.
What do you mean when you talk about financial goals? What's a good financial goal?
A good financial goal, I think, is it's a goal that where you're investing in yourself and in your life and those around you. So paying for university education is a goal. Um, Wanting to retire by a certain age, saying I want to retire when I'm 65, and when I retire, this is how I envision my life to look like, and this is how much money I would need to have to live. That's another goal.
I mean, if I said to you, I want to be rich, would that be a financial goal?
It's a wish.
It's a wish because it's not specific enough,
It's not
right?
specific enough.
Okay.
And it may not be attainable. It's not
Mhm.
realistic. You actually need to
Because
have a
because
goalpost.
because it's not well defined.
No, no.
So
Then you just go buy the lottery. That's your only play.
yeah. Okay. And lots of people who win the lottery are broke pretty soon.
Yeah, because they can't manage their money.
They don't know how to deal with the money. So again, what's another financial goal? A really well-defined financial goal.
Buying a home.
Okay. What kind of a home? Can you be more specific?
Well, I think it depends on your lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you want to have kids and want them to have a yard to play with, and you might have an idea that you want a multi-room household. If you are single and you want to own maybe a condominium, might make sense, or an apartment. Like, it's just, I think it really depends on your lifestyle and where you see yourself headed.
I know that you've given an awful lot of thought to the subject of financial independence, but let's define that for our listeners. What is financial independence?
Financial independence?
What does that really mean?
It's having the freedom to not be stressed out about money.
I know people that are broke that aren't stressed out about money.
I think they're in denial.
Probably.
It's a different philosophy.
It's like I say, I've been rich and I've been poor, and I'd rather be rich.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's having the ability to make different types of decisions, without being too stressed about it, and knowing that you're living within your means. You can trust yourself and your abilities to make good decisions in balancing your budget and your money and seeing through to your next goal.
Over many, many years, I've given this subject an awful lot of thought. I've written software that will do a written financial plan. And I find that, like, where do you start? Where's the starting point if you're going to write software to do a financial plan? Well, the starting point, in my view, after a lot of thinking and experimentation, etc., is you have to start by defining what you spend. Okay? How much do I spend now, and how much do I want to spend? How much do I want to spend on the house that I live in per month? How much do I want to spend on vacations? How much do I want to spend on a house or a cabin in a warm climate or whatever? How much am I going to spend on travel? Okay. How much am I going to spend on gifts? Okay, so by the time you work it all out, I find that if you go to Stats Canada and you look at what the average Canadian spends, it's going to range between $4,000 and about $6,000, $7,000 a month at the top side. But sometimes it's a lot more than that, and sometimes it's a lot less than that. But most of the time, it's going to be maybe, let's say, $5,000 a month as an average. That's $60,000 a year before tax. And really, when you take the tax off that, that's not much.
No.
So when you have enough capital, that capital will earn that $5,000 or that $60,000 a year, then you're financially independent because you don't have to work if you don't want to. Because it's based on your lifestyle expenses. Does that make sense?
Yes, you have to sometimes rebalance your needs and wants.
So when I talk to a client, I say, okay, let's talk about how you spend your money, just like a psychiatrist would say. Tell me what's bothering you, okay? So let's talk about how you spend your money. How much do you spend here, and what do you spend on groceries and gifts and rent or mortgage payment, et cetera, et cetera. Let's list your expenditures. And this is what they are right now, and what should they be, in my opinion. So I run a column right beside that, and I compare the two and add them up at the bottom. And sometimes when I do the expenditures, I find that that's greater, that some of that is greater than the income. That's a deficit. And I say, okay, how are we going to get rid of the deficit? Well, maybe you can make the interest expense that you pay on your mortgage tax deductible. That might help. Maybe you're paying too much for the wrong kind of life insurance. Maybe you're paying too much for groceries. You compare that with what Stats Canada says you should be spending. If you're over what you should be spending, it's time to clip that a bit, to check it out, okay? So you can't spend too much, and you have to make that very efficient, okay? And then the income. So again, your investments, are they earning the returns that they should be? Could they be better invested? Are you investing too safely? Where are you going to get the money to pay these expenses? Where does it come from? I mean, I had a person in my office last week that really has a very nice situation. They're going to be 65 in November. Social Security is going to give them $18,000 a year. Him, it's the one guy.
Okay.
His pension is $72,000. He's got $100,000 a year guaranteed for life.
Wow.
Between pension and Social Security, starting at 65. Owns 5 rental houses.
Oh, wow.
Okay. He's got lots of great rental income coming in. I'm not even going to talk about the rental income because he only needs $5,000 a month to live.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got $100,000 gross coming in just from his pensions.
Wow.
And he only needs $5,000, and he's got all that rental income on top of that. But he's got a big problem because if he passes away, he's got no surviving spouse. There's a deemed disposition on all that rental real estate.
We know who's going to win that one.
And the rental real estate is worth somewhere around $10 million.
Wow.
And the cost base is about $1 million. So he's got a $9 million capital gain in the event of his death. Now, a $9 million capital gain, $4,500 of that is fully taxable. So you can chop $225,000 off, no, $2.25 million off that for the tax man, half of it. That's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a life insurance policy. Death benefit is $200,000. He's got no way to deal with the deemed disposition which will be caused on his death.
Wow.
So he doesn't have an accumulation problem, but he's still got a financial problem.
Right.
And he wants to leave his money to charity.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to set up a charitable trust.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wonder how many people listening to the show right now are in that position. Bet you there's a lot. We have to go to the break. I don't have anybody that I can see in the room there. So anyway, we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
Do you have a GPS? I do. I have one in my boat. I have one in my car. I get in my car, I can turn the GPS on, put an address in, it'll tell me exactly how to get there. When I'm in my boat, I can say I want to go to Anvil Island, and my boat will take me right there every time. Wouldn't it be nice to have a financial plan that would do the same thing?
Fred Snyder.
When you sit down with a financial advisor such as myself, I have to determine the level of risk that you need to take and the level of risk that you're able to take and the level of risk that you want to take and the way to get the best return on your investments. That's what your financial plan is all about.
Fred Snyder.
I just really appreciate and honor what you do every week for people, is giving them financial knowledge, so I'm just really happy about that. Just keep on doing the awesome work, Fred.
Fred Snyder.
So 3 kinds of people: those who really don't have a plan, they're just kind of starting out, those who are on the way, and those who feel they're already there. The 3 types of people. And those who are already there, maybe you need to get a second opinion on that portfolio, that you have to make sure that it's the right one, or maybe you have to tweak the plan itself. That's what we're talking about. If you fall in any of those categories, time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. This is It's Your Money on CIL 650. Here once again is Fred Snyder.
Okay, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, I remind you once again, you're listening to the show. It's called Your Money. I add to that how to keep it, because how to keep it is the most important part of all that. We all earn a small fortune during our working careers. We go to school for a very large portion of our lives to learn how to earn money. And then we start working and we earn a small fortune and we end up broke, according to Stats Canada. Take 100 people who start at equal today at the age of 25. By the time they end up at 65, 1 is wealthy, only 1. 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, no more problems there, and the remaining 54 are dead broke, dependent on family and state. And really, I believe that happens because people do not have a well-crafted written financial plan. A written financial plan says, this is where I stand right now. Here's a list of my income, my expenses, my assets, my liabilities, and here's a list of my goals, and this is how I'm going to change things, modify things, or whatever it takes. This is going to be the bridge I'm going to build between now and my financial future so I can achieve my financial goals. That's what we've been talking about, and that's in the book. So how would you sum up about financial goals?
I think
Gina?
that the important part about having financial goals is to identify them, set them, have a plan that supports them, and make sure that you follow your budget so that you can stay with your plan realistically. And so getting help from the proper professionals is really the best way to go about that.
Okay. This is what I will say on financial goals. I learned this many, many years ago, that there's 5 steps in achieving any goal, not just financial. Step 1 is to crystallize your thinking. Decide specifically what you want to achieve. Step 2 is to develop written plans and deadlines. Step 3 is to kindle desire. That's the burning desire that we talked about earlier. Step 4 is to develop confidence. Believe that you can achieve these goals, whatever they are. And step 5 is to have the iron will determination to follow through on your plan, regardless of circumstances, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. And I'm sure that your book covers off on those points very well.
Yes.
Okay? So you want to get a copy of the book, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, all you have to do is make a phone call. And the longest journey begins with the first step. Maybe that phone call and this book will give you the burning desire that you need to achieve your financial goals. So on page 31 of your book, you talk about risk. Well, why in the world would we ever want to get into negative thinking and talk about risk? What is the risk that we're talking about?
Well, there are different kinds of risk, and I think that there's low, medium, and high, and there are different investments that will fall in those categories. And people who are too afraid to invest need to understand that there are some very low risk options out there for them. And so if you need to, cross that barrier of separating yourself from your money and getting it out from under the mattress, you may need to address the fact that, you've got to put some money on the line in order to make some more money.
Is there anything out there that has no risk?
Well, you've got GICs.
I think there's risk in GICs.
Well, yes, with inflation, yes. And there's
inflation and taxes.
Yeah.
Who's to say that Trudeau isn't going to, I don't think he'd double it, but who's to say that Trudeau isn't going to start imposing even higher taxes on interest income? You don't know that. That's a risk.
That's definitely an uncertainty, yeah.
And what if the financial institution that you're lending your money to goes broke? That can happen. That's credit risk. That's out there. I know we have deposit insurance and all that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But you have to ask yourself these questions. What about insurance companies? Insurance companies have been known to go broke. Okay. So there's some kind of risk in just about anything. So how do you measure risk? We have standard deviation or volatility. Okay. You want to talk about that, or?
Well, the more volatile something is, the higher the risk. It could lead to higher rewards, but it could also lead to higher loss of your principal investment.
Give me an example of something that's risky.
I think maybe a tech stock might be.
Technology, okay. I guess you remember the year 2000?
Yes, the dot-com bubble, yeah.
Okay. Tech stocks. Warren Buffett swore that he wouldn't invest in tech because he didn't understand it. He said basically, I got to buy it at a discount, and I got to understand it, or I won't buy it. And then he recently invested heavily in Apple.
Okay.
I think he maybe broke his own rule there.
Right.
But Apple's pretty awesome when you think about it. So is Apple high risk?
It is and it isn't. It's a big part of the NASDAQ index, the stock market. And so when the NASDAQ is strong, so it means usually that Apple is strong. They are definitely a market giant, and they will never
and they
stop
are
making
volatile.
products.
That stock can decline in value.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Rapidly. It can grow incredibly, and it can also drop rapidly.
So what makes it grow incredibly?
Demand.
Okay.
Demand. If people perceive Apple as being a strong company and I want to be a part of that.
Demand for the stock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
that will, as an investment,
Mhm.
then that is what's going to make Apple stock grow, is optimism in Apple.
Okay. So there's a finite supply of Apple shares out there, and the more people that want to own Apple shares, the more demand there is to buy those shares, and the shares go up in value.
That's right.
And you can take shares in financial institutions. If you look at the Toronto Stock Exchange as an example, 60% of the Toronto Stock Exchange is energy and financial institutions.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say that the Canadian economy is well diversified. So
No,
if
they're
you're
heavily
investing
weighted.
in Canada, you're not extremely broadly diversified.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why the Canadian dollar is down so much right now, because we're in a impending interest rate increase environment right now, and oil is not doing particularly well either.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a problem there.
Mm-hmm.
So risk becomes a big issue when we're investing, and so does risk tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about the actual risk, this systematic risk that exists in the markets themselves, what about tolerance for risk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, I have clients that if the market goes down a little tiny bit, they're on the phone.
Yeah.
I have other clients that could care less.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's tolerance for risk. So someone whose tolerance for risk is extremely low shouldn't be in a tech stock, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to match the investments with the particular type of client that
The
you're
investor.
dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I know that when I sit down with a client, I have to fill out what's known as a KYC form, a Know Your Client form, and I have to define their tolerance for risk.
Mm-hmm.
Is their tolerance for risk low, moderate, or high? What's their investment knowledge? Is it low, moderate, or high? That happens every time. And 95% of the time when I talk to just about anyone, they tell me their tolerance for risk is low and their knowledge is low. And yet I look at their portfolio and it's invested with, not with me, but with somebody else, and it's high risk. So the portfolio doesn't match.
It doesn't reflect them.
Yeah, it's not suitable, really. I think that's the word the regulators use.
Mm-hmm.
So they have an investment portfolio which is not suitable because it doesn't match their knowledge or their tolerance for risk.
They need to diversify it so that it reflects their risk tolerance.
So we have a situation. What other kind of risks are there before we leave this topic?
Well, there's always.
What happens if you die? That's a risk.
It is a risk.
What happens if you become disabled? That's a risk. What happens if your house burns down? What happens if you get sued?
Yeah, uncertainties.
Okay.
Risk is your ability to handle the uncertainties.
Yeah, I think the things that destroy a financial plan is not preparing for the unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the unexpected things that can happen in one's life that can destroy their financial plan? And there's lots of them out there.
There are a lot of variables, yeah.
Okay. So before we leave risk, you want to sum it up?
Well, I think that the best way to address it is to, if you are speaking with a professional, to expect them to create a portfolio for you that will have a mix of low, medium, and higher, so that, if you have a low risk tolerance, most of your investment will be in investments that are maybe 75%, 50 to 75% might be in more conservative investments, and 25% might be for, maybe blue chip stocks. So it's with respect to can you go to sleep at night?
Well, risk, I think the solution to risk when it comes to investing, just talking about the investment part, is called strategic asset allocation.
Mm-hmm.
And strategic asset allocation is the balance that's struck between fixed income and equities.
Mm-hmm.
Now, equities include a whole lot of different investments.
Yes.
Real estate itself is an equity investment. And the
yeah.
word equity connotes ownership.
That's right.
Okay. So Fixed income is where you lend your money to a financial institution or to a government one way or another, and you're not really protected against inflation with fixed income investments. On the equity side, if we have inflation, supposedly, in theory at least, equity investments grow with inflation. And generally, there's a negative correlation between the two. Bonds go up, equities go down, and vice versa. Okay? So that's, when you talk about balance, it's the ratio between fixed income and equities.
That's right.
And when you look at fixed income, you got long-term bonds. That's duration, long duration. You got short-term bonds, which is short duration, and you got high yield, which is junk bonds.
Yep.
Okay. And I don't want to use specific products, but one of the major banks has an emerging markets high yield bond fund, which has really good numbers, which is quite surprising, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. But basically, the key to managing risk is diversification, and it's based on your overall strategic asset allocation. And you have to determine that with your financial advisor. So if you were to take somebody who is fairly financially well off, say at age 50, how much of their money should be invested in fixed income and how much in equities becomes the question. And I would think that should be maybe 50-50.
Yeah, it's kind of in relation to with your age.
Yeah,
in many ways.
An amount equal to your age in fixed income and the balance in equities.
That's a good general rule.
And in my portfolios, I have 11 investment funds that I use, and they're all top performing funds. And 3 of those 11 are fixed income, and the other 8 are equities. And they represent 11 different sectors. And each fund is a top fund in its category. And over the last 5 years, the balanced portfolio, the one that's 50-50 based on strategic asset allocation, has averaged 10% compounded annually over the last 5 years. Now, that's not guaranteed. Never suggested that for a minute, but that is the long-term 5-year performance of that particular investment portfolio. And I think that portfolio is going to fly well in most weather. Maybe not all the time. Okay. We have a caller coming in right now, and this is Dave from White Rock. Dave, welcome to the program. Hi, Dave. Are you there?
Yes.
Hi, Dave. You're on the air. You're live.
Oh, yeah. Fred, I'm not a regular customer of yours, but I listen to your program all the time, which I appreciate.
I can't hear you very well. Just a sec. I see if I can fix this up here. Go ahead. Let's try it now. Hi, Dave. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. What's your question, Dave?
Oh, okay. I at the age where I'm sold or getting rid of all my assets and everything else, and I'm in a position where I pay very, very much income tax. Now, last week Fred was talking about giving money to the kids for buy a car or a house or whatever. And I'm just wondering if I give my kid say around $75,000 or something, is there any interest on that? Can I charge any interest?
Well, if you loan money to somebody and you charge interest, then that interest that you receive is taxable.
Yeah.
That's the downside. But the principle itself is not a tax problem. And,
yeah.
And actually, by giving the money to your, I assume it's an adult child. If you give money to an adult child, the rules of attribution don't kick in. If it's a minor child, they do. Under the rules of attribution, any income tax earned on that money would be your child would be responsible for that, not you. But Dave, do you have a financial plan?
No, I'm at an age where I haven't got one anywhere. I just got enough money to keep me going on a year-to-year basis right now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well,
I'm just wondering if I could, is there any if I give that money to the kid, can I charge him say 10 or 15% or whatever the case may?
Whatever let your conscience be your guide. You can charge them whatever you want.
Yeah.
There might be some rule down the line that says there's some limit on it, but if there is, I'm not aware of it. It's entirely you can give it to them interest free if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
but you want them to pay you back.
My big problem is right now, what I was just thinking, that if I could give this money to the kid and charge him 10%,
mm-hmm.
and he has to he can show that interest as a deduction on his income tax when he's buying a rental house.
If it's rental property, sure, that's
correct. And then I have to pay interest or income tax on the interest that he pays me.
Yes, but you know something, Dave, the issues that you're putting forth right now are extremely well handled by a financial plan. You said you don't need one or whatever, but if you have the financial wherewithal that you can afford to give $75,000 to one of your children, you're probably better off than you think you are. And all the questions you're asking me right now are best handled in a written financial plan. You're a perfect example of what we're talking about. So if you call Frida, you can make an appointment to see myself, and I would be very happy to drop a written financial plan for you. And if you can't come into the office, then I could probably make a house call.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the big question right now is that I give him that money, and I have to pay income tax, the interest that he pays me. Now, I'm in a situation where I pay very, very, or no income tax at all.
Well, then you probably won't have to pay tax on any income that the $75,000 would generate.
And then when the interest that he paid me, in say 6 months down the road, can I give that, take that interest and give it back to the kid?
Well, once the tax is paid, a dollar's a dollar's a dollar, and if you decide to give that back to your child, there's no problem.
There's no problem there.
No.
I think that you can do debt forgiveness. If you forgive a debt, then I think that could possibly be a way of
I'm just thinking that the interest that he can pay, that he's going to have to pay, he's going to get that deduction on the mortgage that he's paying on the house that he's buying.
Mm-hmm. I would say that the best thing, Dave, for you to do is to call Frida, make an appointment, and we'll do a written financial plan for you. There's no cost. It doesn't cost you 5 cents. No cost or obligation, so it's a no-brainer. Nothing to lose, everything to gain to make sure that you get it right.
Yeah. No, my big problem is I'm getting at an age where I have to have a walker, and it's pretty hard for me to move around. That's the only thing.
Well, then call Frida. I'll come out and see you in White Rock. I love going to White Rock.
Well, I could do that then.
That's all. That's what you do. Give Frida a call. You can reach Frida right now at 604-737-3512.
Yeah.
And if you call, you're not long distance, so it's 604-737-3512. Give her a call, make an appointment, come in and see me, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, as I say, I can't get up to see him.
No, I'll come, but I meant I'll come and see you.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good then.
Okay, enjoy the rest of the weekend. Okay, bye-bye. And I forgot to mention, it's Father's Day, so all you dads that are out there, happy Father's Day. I meant to I meant to say that. That the sound acoustics, we're having issues. It's not very good. I don't know if you got that call was staticky. Did you hear it clear?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear the entire phone call. No.
Yeah, it's terrible. The acoustics are not good right now. So, bear with us. We're trying. Station's under renovations right now, so they're changing things around. So again, if you just tuned in, I'm talking with Gina Deal, who's written a book, Looney to Tooney. I guess that means you double your money. How do you double your money? Divide the rate of return into 72. So if you can get 12% on your money, divide it into 72, it goes 6 times. You double your money in 6 years. If you get 10% on your money, as I have in my model portfolio, you would double your money in 7.2 years. So you just have to divide the rate of return into 72. So we're talking about risk, and now the next subject in the book is taxation and investing. So that was a tax issue right there as an example. I'm going to talk a bit about tax. Again, I haven't read your book, and you may want to comment on this a little later. But the bottom line is that when you invest and you make money, it's taxable. So if you're in the top tax bracket, I'm not going to take too long to talk about all the various tax brackets, but if you're in the top tax bracket and you make a capital gain, it's only taxed at 20%, approximately. If you get a dividend, it's only taxed at about 20%, approximately. You get interest income, top tax bracket's taxed at 50% right now. So would you rather pay 50 or 20 on your earnings, okay? RRSPs, you make money in an RRSP, it's tax deferred until you take the money out. You make money on a TFSA, you never pay any tax on that at all. You make money on the house you live in, never pay any tax on that at all. You can buy certain investments where the risk is a little higher, like flow-through shares, get big tax deduction, but also lots of risk. Depends on whether you can afford to lose or not. There's so many things that you need to consider when it comes to taxation. But the bottom line is this. If I said to you, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there right now, if you come and see me, I have an investment which is guaranteed by the federal government that will pay you 10% guaranteed for the next 20 years per year. I would have a lineup at my door that would be so long it would be unbelievable, okay? Because there isn't such a thing, only in your wildest dreams. But if you could get 10% guaranteed from an interest-bearing investment, and you inflation adjust it and tax adjust it, this is what happens. If you get 10%, take the tax off, you're in the top tax bracket, you're left with 5. If inflation is 3, I know it's not 3 right now, but it's averaged more than that on the long term. If you use 3% for inflation, your net return out of a gross of 10 is 2%. Okay? Think about that for a minute. Because if you tax that as if it's a capital gain on the 10%, the tax would then only be 20%, not half. So if it's 20%, you're left with 8. Take inflation off 8, your real return is 5. So income tax is a very, very important ingredient when it comes to getting a real rate of return on your money. You have to mitigate the tax. I hope that makes sense. Now, we have situations where we just had one similar to that, where a parent wants to loan money to a dependent child. So if a parent loans money to a dependent child, let's say the parent is getting $10,000 a year interest, loans the capital to the dependent child, thinking they're going to transfer the $10,000 interest to the dependent child, there won't be much tax to pay. Doesn't work, because that's called the rules of attribution. So the child earns $10,000, that's attributed back to the parent, and there's nothing gained by that because of the rules of attribution. If it's an adult child, it's a different situation. You've transferred the tax problem to the adult child. It's not the same. There's opportunities right now. You can loan money to a spouse, and the imputed rate that CRA charges right now, I think, is 1% on that kind of money. It's locked in at 1% for the term. So that's beneficial. But you really need to sit down with a financial advisor who's knowledgeable about all of these issues. And please, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, don't run out and try to do anything that I'm talking about on this show without checking with your trusted financial advisor, whoever that might be. Because we're only kind of skimming over the tops of all these issues. So taxes become a very, very important element, and you have to look at what you're earning. You look at the house you live in. I say that everybody should own the house they live in, because and pay almost as much for it as you can afford to pay for it. Okay? Because any growth in that house you live in is income tax free, just as it is with a TFSA. If you put money in a TFSA and you double it, let's say you put 100,000, you can't. Let's say you put the maximum in 46.5 into a TFSA, and it doubles. You just made 46.5 income tax free. It's
Nice.
never taxable. Okay. So people need to think about this and much, much more. And I guess we're over the time limit here. We got to go to the break, so we're going to go to the break. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away. So you got to start thinking about how you're spending your money.
Fred Snyder.
If you can reduce the amount of tax you pay, that means that you get a tax refund. So you get a tax refund means you've really overpaid your taxes. And if you overpay your taxes, what you've really done is loan money to the government. So rule number 1 of my 46 ways to ease the tax bite is don't lend your money to the government.
Fred Snyder.
So pay your taxes. We're not talking about not paying your taxes. We're talking about legal ways to reduce the taxes you pay, not avoid them, to reduce the taxes you pay so that you can have more money to save and invest so that you can achieve your financial goals sooner. And if you're already there, stay there longer, because once you get there, it's your obligation to stay there.
Fred Snyder.
If you have a financial plan and you're somewhere in the middle and you're wondering what tweaks that you should make in that plan to make it what you really want it to be, time to make a phone call. Or if maybe you're just getting started out and you want to get a starter plan, maybe it's time to talk to somebody like myself and get yourself on the right track.
Fred Snyder.
I think that everybody needs to go and make an appointment to see Fred.
Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650.
Hi, it's Tom Lucas, and okay, here we go. Another world-famous radio real estate show poem. Roses are red, violets are blue. Real estate... What? Don't go there? Okay. Just leaves me time to say join Bill, Fern, and myself for Radio Real Estate Saturday mornings at 10 right here on CIL 650.
To the man whose shoes you'll never quite fill. Happy Father's Day. From Smooth and Easy, CIL 650. Welcome back to It's Your Money on CIL 650. If you have a question for Fred, call 604-280-0650. Now, back to Fred.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back. And again, I remind you, I'm talking with Gina Lee about how to turn a loony into a toonie. That's her book. And all callers get a copy of that book. And Dave, who called earlier, will also get a copy of that book. And again, if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air, you need to make an appointment to see myself for a second opinion on your investment portfolio or a written financial plan complimentary on myself. All you have to do is give Frida a call. You can reach Frida right now, area code 604-737-3512. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. Remind you, once again, we're talking about your money and how to keep it. And if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner representing Scotia Wealth Management. And again, I believe that we all need a financial plan. We don't have one, and the secret to financial success is to have one. If you don't have one, you're planning to fail. You fail to plan, you plan to fail. 604-280-0650, long distance 1-877-280-0650. Log on www.cl650.com. Frida down at the office 604-737-3512. Long distance 1-800-661-1495. Now you're at Chapters, is it?
Oh, yes. On June 30th, I have an author event at Chapters on Granville and Broadway from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
That's right under our office.
Oh, yes, yes. I heard from Frida, yes.
Mm.
So if anyone wants to come by and meet me and check out the book, ask some questions, let's talk about financial literacy. June 30th, chapters on Granville and Broadway.
Well, lots of people, Gina, listening to this show will say, well, I don't need that. I'm financially independent. I'm well off. But what about your kids? Okay? You know, share the knowledge. Share the wealth, share the knowledge.
It's imperative.
So we're talking about taxation and investing. Let's put that one to bed. Let's just sum it up by saying, if you're going to get a real return on your money, you have to mitigate your taxes. Okay? Let's talk about investment accounts. That's the next chapter or the next paragraph or whatever in your book. Okay?
The RSP and
So
TFSA.
what? So you're referring to RSPs, TFSAs.
And I also refer to RESPs.
Oh, I forgot to mention RESPs
and
earlier.
RDSPs.
Yeah, disability plans as well. Okay. Any comments you want to make on those right now?
Maximize them. If you invest, everybody will at one point be using the RRSPs and TFSAs. You have to take full advantages of all the tax benefits you can get from your investments if you were to make contributions to those two investment accounts. And if you have children or nieces or nephews that you would like to see go to post-secondary school, you should be investing in the Registered Education Savings Plan.
How does that work?
It's a great plan. I'm a new aunt, and so that's why I'm visiting Vancouver. And so I'm thinking about my niece's education, going to university. And what's great about it is your contributions are not tax deductible the way they are for the RSPs, but you get grants in return from the government for making contributions. And the government will contribute up to $7,200 until the child is 17.
So the government puts some money into the pot, and the money that's in the pot grows tax-free.
That's right.
And that money can be invested how? Mutual funds?
Mutual
stocks?
funds, target funds. So target funds are intended to expire by the time the child is going to go to school, so when they're 18. And so the idea is to just continuously make contributions to it every year, and the government will give up to 20%, up to a maximum of $500 for your annual contributions. So, you know, that can work out to be 15. You should get on that right away to get all those grants.
How does the registered disability plan work?
Well, this is if you have a disability and you can open up a plan and designate yourself as a beneficiary. You can only do it in one financial institution at this point. You can't have multiple RDSP accounts.
Can't spread them around.
No. So you have to really pick and choose like the one most ideal for you. Or you can open that a RDSP for somebody else that, you know, if it's your child and you want to ensure that they have, you know, enough money to last them and when they're older. That's
What's
what
the tax
account
treatment?
is for.
How's it work tax-wise?
How does well, you don't get tax deductions for your contributions, but the government will match your contributions by 100%, 200%, or 300%, depending on the household income of the beneficiary. So it's a good return, and they will contribute up to $70,000. And for
I mean, the government will put up to 70 grand into one of these.
yes, they'll make contributions until the beneficiary's age 49. But you can keep contributing to the plan until the beneficiary reaches age 59. And then from age 60 onwards, they have to start, you can't make contributions to the plan anymore, and they can start making withdrawals.
So in summary, types of investment accounts are RSPs, RESPs, RDSPs,
And TFSAs.
TFSAs.
Yep.
Anything else?
Yes.
You gotta understand them though. Okay.
Yes, there are lots of ins and outs to these plans, and so when you speak to a professional, they can tell you the exceptions to the rules, ways to maximize and take full like full advantage of all the benefits in each of those plans. So it's really good to speak with an advisor so that they can help you strategize how you can make the most of those plans. You know, make large lump sum, early lump sum contributions, etc.
So under Part 3 investments, you have asset classes, which we talked about when we talked about strategic asset allocation. But your first asset class is called cash.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that earns interest, term deposits, GICs, Canada Savings Bonds, T-bills, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In every case under that category, you're a lender. You're lending your money to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting a return based on interest. And then we have asset class called fixed income. That's bonds.
That's correct. Yep.
And again, you loan your money to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of bonds, you loan to the federal government might be for 20 years, where they have to pay you a specific rate of interest for 20 years. At the end of 20 years, they have to give you your principal back. And the risk in fixed income is if interest rates go up, the value of your investment declines accordingly. And vice versa. If interest rates go down, the value of your investments increases. Okay? And then we have equities. And here we're talking about stocks. I think you probably should have said stocks and real estate. I don't know if you I don't know how you'd categorize real estate in there, but I think that also becomes a form of...
I felt that real estate is like another book.
Okay. Well, you're saving it.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. But anyway, you got equities, asset class, you got stocks, mutual funds, and real estate. Anything where you're an owner, really. You could exaggerate that. You could talk about gemstones, and you could talk about gold and precious metals. They're all equities. Then you talk about investment funds. You got ETFs, exchange traded funds. What is an exchange traded fund?
It's an investment fund that trades on the stock exchanges. And so it's similar to mutual funds, only you can buy shares from a brokerage account, through a brokerage account, and it trades on the stock exchanges the way regular stocks do. And there are different types of ETFs.
How does it compare to a straight mutual fund? What makes it different?
Well, it's more prone to market swings. A lot of ETFs are designed to follow stock market indexes.
It's like a form of an index fund.
Yeah, so it's one way to buy the market. But if the market is very depressed, so will your ETF will likely
it
follow
will mimic the market.
Yes, unless it's in a different sector that's probably more defensive. So there are different types of ETFs that you can get, very similar to mutual funds.
So you're not likely to outperform the market if you buy an ETF. You're going to mirror it pretty much.
Yes, unless you, and there are multiple strategies with that.
I dare say there's a lot of different ETFs out there.
Oh, it's the one financial product that is growing exponentially. It's very popular because you can also make money from the distributions from that are of the assets and the ETFs.
I notice that right after that you have mutual funds. So what are your comments on mutual funds themselves?
I love them. I mean, I think that if you're new to investing, this is the way to go. It's one of the most affordable ways to diversify your investments. You know, you can start off with $1,000, $1,500, and suddenly you have a portfolio. You've got blue chip Canadian equity mutual fund, you have a T-bill fund, and you have bond fixed income fund, and there you go. Congratulations, you're now an investor. It's not you don't need as much capital as you would need to buy stocks or an ETF.
I'd like to think of mutual funds as managed money.
Yes.
Okay, like you buy stocks, you have to trade to do well. So who makes the trading decisions? You, your broker, who? Okay, with mutual funds, that decision's already made. You have a manager.
You have your fund managers. Yeah.
His sole job is to manage that fund, and they can get fired. So if they do a lousy job of performance, they're going to lose their job.
That's right.
So they have a stake as well as you. You buy a mutual fund, you have a stake in that fund performing well, but so does the manager of that fund. And the manager will have a fee that they charge the fund, and the fee is called the MER,
That's right.
management expense ratio.
They're great for busy people. Too.
So mutual funds can be a very, very important part of anybody's financial plan. We have to go to the break, so we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll keep on talking about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away.